Mochi Health is a long-term weight loss solution personalized to fit your unique needs and goals. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who are on a mission to listen. Eligible patients can access custom-formulated GLP-1 medications at an affordable, set price and get them delivered to their home each month. No insurance required. FSA and HSA accepted. With 24/7 customer service available, Mochi Health is here to partner with you on your journey to a healthier life. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com.
Welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race Recap Show for All Stars 10, Episode 9, titled The Golden Bitchler. My name's Joe Batanz, and I am joined, as always, by one synological co-host from the podcast Pod is my co-pilot. Please say...
This bitch and I have a lot in common.
To Mr. Taylor, the Latte Boy. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Joseph. How are we today?
We're doing very well. You and I had a much longer than usual conversation over on Just Between Us Girls. Mm-hmm. And if you want to listen to Just Between Us Girls, and we're going to be quick about this, there's two ways you can do it. I'm actually going to start off with the Apple Podcast. If you don't want to deal with Patreon, if you don't want to deal with the Patreon app, if you don't want to deal with any of that stuff, and you're listening on Apple Podcasts, just go right to the top, subscribe. I believe it's $6.45 to subscribe, and you get Total Recap, which is this show at the same time as everybody else on Patreon, uncut, uncensored, unfiltered. And you also get Just Between Us Girls right there in your Apple Podcast. Very simple, and it's a great way to support us. The other way you can do it, download the Patreon app. And I'm going to tell you, I am admitting that I'm doing a freemium sort of strategy where you download, sign up for free, hundreds of hours of content. In fact, we're broadcasting live right now on Patreon. It's open to anyone who follows Afterthought Media, free and paid. You can watch it live. So if you're like a huge Drag Race fan and you're like, I want to see a recap as soon as possible, you can do it. Watch it live on Patreon for free. You just got to sign up for the app and follow Afterthought Media, and then you have access to hours and hours of free content. You get the show uncut and unfiltered, no commercials 2 weeks later. Yeah, all that. And by the way, if you pay though, this very video we rebroadcast Sundays at noon Pacific, and you can watch it live and talk with other people. It's called The Drop. And then also, if you don't even have time for that, you can just watch it at your leisure, and you get the show early, uncut, no commercials, and you get thousands of hours of Patreon content. It's so much value. I'm not even talking about what the other tiers offer. I'm convinced that you'll fall in love and want to do this over at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia. All right, Taylor, that's everything there. This week, the girls go for a walk in the park in a dog-related improv acting challenge. On the runway, the category is paper dolls, and the dolls walk the runway in dresses made of paper. On the main stage, Ginger, Minj, and Daya are named the top 2 All-Stars of the week, cementing their places in the top 3 and forcing them to face off in a lip-sync battle for the point. After all was sung and done, Daya won the point, and finally the bottom 4 queens gave away their points to determine who would get that final spot in the semifinals. In the end, Cynthia Lee Fontaine won enough points to snatch the 3rd spot in the semifinals. There's going to be a lot of questions today, Taylor. First, were the right 2 queens in the top, and did the right queen win the lip sync?
I am not 100% sure about the top 2 queens. I definitely think Ginger did a great job. We definitely laughed a lot at the things that Ginger said and that Ginger was doing. I think that it could have been a toss-up between the Bettys. I think that Daya obviously did a great job, and you knew who that character was right away. Like they said, when she came through the gate and then said something along the lines of, she goes, well, clearly you know who I am. Like, you knew immediately, like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. But I also thought Acid was pretty good too, and could have seen a world where it was Acid versus Ginger. As far as who won the lip sync, I would agree wholeheartedly that Daya won the lip sync. I love that song. That song's from when I was a kid, and
I've never heard that song in my life.
really? Okay.
Never heard it.
And I think that Daya seems to give off more of the energy of that song. And you brought up something, I think it was either in the last episode or the first episode of this bracket, in which Ginger has like 3 faces that she uses when she lip syncs. And she did that this time too. Like that was exactly what. So then I was more focused on that, and that she wasn't as animated as I thought she could have been for that song. She sort of was taking a not even comedic route with it, but just sort of this odd route that I wasn't necessarily about. Whereas I feel Daya felt very, this is my song and I'm performing it on solid gold in 1983 kind of thing. Like that was sort of the feeling that I got from this, especially with like the 80s with the big shoulder pads and like the real short, spiky, kind of lesbianic hair that she had going on. I enjoyed her performance more. So of the two, yes, I think that she won the lip sync. What say you?
I think Ginger should have been there. I think Ginger, look, the problem isn't with Ginger. The problem is the way the producers put their thumb on the scale, the way they chose these challenges. This is a challenge clearly chosen for Ginger, with a role chosen for Ginger. Like it's just like handing her the win of the episode. And so, yeah, she deserves that spot there. She was good. The second spot, I think this is where you and I differ. I thought Acid Betty was fine, and we'll talk about this when we get to the actual challenge. I think they were all fine, to be honest with you. Well, Alyssa, no. But everybody but Alyssa I thought was fine. I actually do think, strangely, and I'm not a fan of this person actually drives me up the wall. I actually thought Cynthia Lee Fontaine was pretty good in this challenge and perhaps deserved the win. I think it would have taken on a lot of the drama and surprise. But then it would have added to it, because then you would have had Denali versus Daya Betty for that third spot, which would have driven her up the wall. I think Cynthia Lee Fontaine should have been in that position rather than Daya Betty. I thought she did a better job. But that outfit, fuck, I didn't consider the runway.
Yeah.
The runway was not good.
Yeah, the outfit was horrible. That might have been what cost her.
Then I probably would have given it to Denali then. I would have given it to Denali.
Really? Oh, I didn't think Denali was very good at all in this. I was very disappointed with.
Here's the deal. I didn't think Daya Betty was very good at all, but we're giving a sneak preview of what we're going to talk about. Won the lip sync. Yeah, Daya Betty won the lip sync, but I think always Ginger does the least on lip sync. I've been surprised that she won the past 2 times. So, yeah. So here's the next question.
Okay.
Are the right 3 queens going forward into the semifinals?
I don't know. I want to say, obviously Ginger, yes. I mean, that was a given. And I could see Daya Betty being a great competitor. She's not necessarily my first choice. I really, that whole thing of with the distribution of the points was the best of all of the of the final episode of the 3 brackets. It was the most like edge of your seat kind of, how are they going to do this? And the most, you didn't know which way it was going to go. And I can appreciate that from an underdog point of view, Cynthia being the third one. But I kind of feel like I would have rather seen Denali or maybe even Acid, just from a looks perspective. I feel like we would be treated to more with either one of the 2 of them in that third spot.
So I saw this thing on Reddit, which was very interesting, where they took out the MVQ points and they said, based on points alone without MVQ points included, who should be there? And it was funny. The only person who shouldn't be there was Cynthia Lee Fontaine. Everybody else, regardless of the MVQ points, would have still been in that position. Okay. The only difference was Cynthia Lee Fontaine. I actually think it's kind of fun. It's one of these things where, look, Cynthia Lee Fontaine bugs the shit out of me. I find her very annoying and very disturbing to look at and experience. I will say she's beloved by the queens.
Yes.
Beloved. They fucking love her. But as a TV personality, I find her very annoying and grating.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you would put Denali. Denali is not that good of television. So in a weird kind of way, look, let's be honest. My prediction is, because RuPaul said someone's going to be eliminated next episode, they're just going to get rid of Cynthia Lee Fontaine. That's a prediction. I don't know. I don't know shit.
Yeah.
But they should be thankful that there's someone to go home first.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's awful, right? So, yeah. Those are my thoughts. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we're going to ask Taylor the big question. What's his big takeaway from the episode? We'll be back right after this.
Long gone are the days of waiting to be seen in a doctor's office only to have that awkward conversation with your healthcare provider. Wisp gives you access to sexual and reproductive healthcare from the comfort of your home. Get treatment for BV, yeast infections, UTIs, and much more delivered directly to your home or ready for pickup at your local pharmacy in less than 3 hours. The best part? Wisp is discreet, convenient, and you don't need medical insurance to receive care or prescription medication. Visit us today at hellowisp.com.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
We are back. All right, Taylor, what's your big takeaway from this episode?
I think over the course of we've been treated to these 3 packets of 3 episodes, and we've watched various things happen over the last 9 episodes. I feel like there were things that were said in this episode that resonated the most with me, as far as redemption arcs or things that people said that hopefully people will, the list of viewers will be able to watch this and kind of glean something that maybe they can pull back from their own lives and kind of utilize in their own lives. The things that kind of come to mind are Denali was clearly pissed when she came back into the workroom, but when they
after
losing the lip sync.
After
Ginger wins the lip sync in the first act. And when they asked her, she was able to do what we in therapy we call a reframe, which is where she was, she goes, clearly I could be sad and say I didn't win and throw a tantrum and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I've got this many points. I'm in the top 2 right now. And kind of reframe to focus on the positives versus the negatives. So in that regards, I appreciate that. A little bit later on, when Ginger and Alyssa are teamed up together, and after the interaction the two of them had about, well, I thought that Denali won, Ginger said something. Ginger said, I had it in my head, and my confidence is not your concern.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
which is something that hopefully we hear more people kind of taking that on and realizing that that's something that we all can do, especially when we talk about comparing ourselves to others. I mean, I made a comment on Just Between Us Girls talking about comparing myself to everybody in my life. And that's something where we all can do that, where we have to focus on our own lives and focus on our own journeys versus what other people happen to think of them. The other part of this is I can appreciate when you think back to season 8 and you think about the way Acid Betty came off versus how she's coming off now, or how she presented over these 3 episodes. Is it slightly contrived? Yes. But I feel like she is someone who is not the same person she was 10 years ago. And I just remember at the reunion when there was the interaction between her and Trixie Mattel, where she asked the question of, did you or did you not come for me? And everybody was sort of laughing at Acid Betty at that moment. That's how I remember it. Whereas I feel like this time she kind of became the group cheerleader, I thought, and definitely, talking about we should all pool our points to, get somebody through. And while she hinted that she would like the points, she never actually said, I want all the points. I just thought that was a very nice way to see her be a little bit more mature than I feel like she was on season 8. And this isn't somebody that was in her 20s and 10 years ago. She was, I think she's close to our age now.
She said she's turning 50 this year. I don't know if that was last year or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's between your age and my age, which means she was in her 40s 10 years ago. So it was very, I enjoyed watching from a therapist standpoint, some of the character arcs and some of the things that people said that resonate with me is something that could be very used towards growth, personal growth. And that's my takeaway. What was your takeaway?
It's related yet not related at all. It's and I guess we'll talk more about this in it. It was that I was a little surprised. It's so funny is to I'm going to actually ricochet off of what you said when you're talking about Acid Betty and how she had this sort of 10 years of redemption, not redemption, but 10 years of growth. And we see not necessarily a redemption here, but that she's not the same person she was 10 years ago. And she maybe wanted the point, but she didn't outright say she wants the point, yada, yada, yada. All great takes and stuff like that. But you can contrast it in this episode with Daya Betty.
Oh, we were going to get to that.
Oh, we are.
Yeah,
it's a big
I completely
talk
forgot about that. I didn't say everybody grew. I just said the 3 examples that I said.
And who was strange. She managed to keep it in for 2 episodes, but behaved like a completely psychic vampire. Here, isn't that the term? I think it's in the Church of Satan. That's a term, but where you're just completely ego driven and delusional, literally delusional. And again, we're going to talk about this. It'll probably be the thing we talk about in the episode. But the amount of, and by the way, Ginger's coming off unscathed here too. But the amount of entitlement that we see from the winners of the episode is. Oh no, Daya Betty wasn't the winner of the episode. Denali was. Well, I guess Denali was too. But Ginger's been winning, and even wins this one, and is way ahead of the pack. And that entitlement, it's very, very strange. It's very, very weird. And and I guess we'll talk. Well, I'm obviously going to talk about it at length with Daya Betty. But my big takeaway is delusion, entitlement. And it's somehow strangely rewarded because the 2 entitled delusional people won the episode. But I guess we'll talk about it more. Well, on that note, Taylor, why don't we, while public feed, while you untuck in the Taylor the Latte Boy Lounge, Taylor and I are going to deliberate and recap, discuss, dissect, and deconstruct this episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. You'll get a curated version. Now it's time for the Maxi Challenge, the Golden Bitchler. The story is very simple, guys, because it's really a bunch of scenes. They set it up like The Bachelor. They have the girls walk in one by one and say hi to the Golden Bitchler. Then they have these 2-on-1 dates, and they go in order, and we'll go through them. And then they do like a comical, like, here's the winner of the Golden Bone is what they're calling it. And then they all chase after a squirrel at the end. There's no real plot to it. It's just they each spend time with the Bitchler and shoot their shot.
Right.
Let's talk about the first group, Cynthia, Lee Fontaine, and Acid Betty. Again, their characters were, Cynthia and Acid were, where are you?
Doberman Dominatrix.
Oh, yeah, a Dominic Doberman and then a perpetually nervous Chihuahua, who she was strangely dressed as a nun. I don't know why.
Well, because she said she wanted to be very religious.
Oh, okay.
So that was, I guess, the idea was that she was she was a Chihuahua nun.
Yeah.
I thought Acid was funny with this. I can see where it was sort of a one-trick pony of where she was like, sit, but I thought she looked great too. Somebody in the pool said, "Oh, they're doing this because Rue thought Gottmik was so funny a couple years ago in Snatch Game when she played a Cocker Spaniel with the dog prosthetics and that sort of thing."
I get it. I don't really think Acid thought it out that hard. I think she just leaned into the dominatrix part of it all,
but could have gone further, I think.
Well, I thought Cynthia was actually pretty good because she does the same thing Alyssa does, which is this like weird Spanish TV overdoing it thing, which I think lends itself to this kind of thing. And here's the deal. This is what I was listening for. Speaking of, were they listening? Were the people going in there? Because improv is listening. And I'm going to harken back to Trixie as a bad example of improv. Trixie's really bad at it because Trixie wants to go in. She has control issues. And she wants to control the situation and bring in her jokes, not listen, just steamroll with jokes. And that's why she was bad on that Bachelor parody. Because she had her jokes she wanted to do, didn't want to listen, didn't want to play, didn't want to leave anything to chance, didn't want to see where it went. And I felt Acid was doing a little bit of that, where she kind of had her jokes she wanted to do and didn't want to necessarily take what Zayn threw at her and run with it. Whereas I think Cynthia was more willing to listen and go with it a little more. But Acid wasn't bad, but she just had her jokes she wanted to do. And then if it wasn't her jokes, she either wasn't interested or wasn't very good.
Okay.
Next, we have Ginger Minj as the St. Bernard and Alyssa as the dog who's a whore. Your thoughts here?
I mean, I thought Ginger was great. I thought that using the example of listening, and they talked about this, that you were listening the entire time and looking for chances to pick up things. I think the 12-step father was a funny joke for her to be able to just kind of pull that out of nowhere. And then I'm court ordered. I have to find somebody. It shows that she is really good at improv. In the beginning, when she first came out, it was coming off very Edith Bunker to me at first. But she seemed to kind of modify it at least enough that it wasn't quite so shrill. Mm-hmm. And
well, I think, if you know your character and you can live in your character, then you can make the choices that your character would make if you listen. What would there's a part two to speak to what you were saying where, let's go to Alyssa. Alyssa's horrible, terrible, wasn't listening, had her dumb, stupid Spanish TV sex jokes she wanted to make. And it was done. But she mentions that she likes to find dildos or something. I don't know something about dildo.
Which came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere. And then Ginger goes, a pickle bread? Right? And it was like, oh, you see, she's listening. She's listening. And then what would her character say in that moment? So Ginger was clearly heads and shoulders above the rest here. And, and no one's surprised she was. Alyssa, terrible. And the fucking burping, it was just like, again, it's something about Puerto Rico. Those Puerto Rican queens, they go back to like their Puerto Rican humor, what I think probably plays on Spanish TV on Univision, and they're throwing themselves all over the place and farting and burping. It wasn't, And then finally we have Daya Betty as sort of this prissy, thinks she's better than everybody dog, and Denali as a Cocker Spaniel who wants to be emotional. She's like emotionally fragile or something, right?
She's supposed to be an emotional support dog, but she
who needs
apparently
emotional support.
needs emotional support. And I feel like with Denali, that was a missed opportunity. Like, for one, I don't know that she needed the English accent. I think she would have been just fine. If anything, that was distracting for her. But I feel like talking about something of where with an emotional support animal, maybe that's where you're trying to be more controlling, but you're very concerned with how you do it because you don't want to do it wrong because you want to keep everybody safe. So I feel like there's more that she could have done there, because then she just seemed more like she needed an emotional support animal versus trying to be an emotional support animal. And I thought Daya did really good, especially when they were all in the hot tub and we're talking about things. She seemed to pick up on cues a little bit faster than Denali did. I don't get, and this is something we have talked about in every one of these skits, every one of these improvs and everything. We always have to go to the lesbian thing. We always have to go to where we're going to kiss or we think we're going to kiss or something like that. And get something new, get some new material.
But this is exactly what we've been talking about. And what I've been talking about is they didn't want to listen. Denali and Daya are very much wanting to be in control of the situation. So they colluded with each other we're going to take control of the situation so that no matter what happens, we're not going to be thrown off. And we're going to be lesbians with each other. But what that does is it cuts Zayn out of the scene. Right. Now it's not about Zayn. He's cut out of the scene. It's about them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I thought Daya shouldn't have won. I think it wasn't brought up, but that Daya and Denali failed because they did a scene with each other, not all the time, but there was a big chunk where they just did this lesbian thing that, one, is overdone and hack, but also, like, it's clearly they don't want to listen. They're both freaked out. They both are going to be fighting with each other for that third spot in their head. And so they want to guarantee, I don't know, it was very strange. And so they just didn't want the situation to happen organically. They wanted to make sure that there was no chance of fucking it up. But instead, to me, it fucked it up. Obviously, in the judges' eyes, they didn't, because they gave it to Daya Betty. Any other thoughts on this Maxi challenge?
No.
All right.
It was okay. I mean,
yeah, it's fine.
You know, as far as them go, we definitely all laughed a bunch, but it was. I'll forget about it as soon as we're done taping the show.
Now it's time for the looks.
The looks. This week, the runway theme was paper dolls. That doesn't mean they were going to be portraying paper dolls. They were going to be dressed in, they didn't say this explicitly, but dresses made of paper. And we're going to go through and read the descriptions of the look. And believe it or not, I'm going to have opinions this time. Okay.
Yeah, I actually have opinions this time. So go ahead.
Okay. Oh, okay. Because I think I have your notes.
Yeah.
That came up first. Okay, because I was going to read those, and I'm like, it's just little bullet points, but okay. So first up was Alyssa Hunter. Alyssa's wearing a sculptural mini dress made entirely from hand-painted paper panels, arranged to resemble a mosaic or stained glass pattern. The garment features extreme volume in the sleeves and shoulders, extending into large, conical paper horns. Gold veining runs throughout the look, and the outfit is completed with matching horned platform heels and a high platinum beehive wig. I thought this was a neat look. I thought it was very couture looking. It was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not experimental. I liked it. That's basically what it is. And I thought that she looked pretty wearing it.
Yeah. I think it was a good concept. It may have been gilding the lily too much, you know? And also, look, ultimately, it was, like I said, a great concept. I don't know that whoever made it, though, had the skills to sort of rein it in, to keep it refined. And I think the finish was a little rough. Okay.
So next up was Ginger Minj. Ginger presents a golden Elizabethan style ball gown silhouette constructed from parchment toned paper printed with script text. The full skirt is paled with puffed sleeves, and a large ruffled paper collar. A portrait of William Shakespeare is printed on the bodice, and she carries a feather quill and red book to complete the reference. I thought she looked great in this. I thought this was a really neat look. And it was Elizabethan. It was not French Revolution. And I have thoughts about that when we talk about ending up the thing.
I know Robert doesn't watch it till like Sunday night, but I still wrote to him. All I wrote was, Michelle Visage is such a stupid bitch.
Yeah. So, but I thought that Ginger referred to it as her favorite thing she's ever worn on the runway. It's not my favorite thing that she's ever worn on the runway. I feel like there are other things that she's worn that I liked better, but I did think it was an amazing look.
All right, yeah. Very clear character. We knew exactly who she was. All of us knew exactly who she was. Yeah, and the little details, elevated it more than what it was. Kind of basic, but it was elevated by these little details.
Yeah. So next up is Denali, and Denali's wearing a nude illusion mini dress overlaid with jagged paper feather appliques in black and gold. A large sculpted paper fox inspired by the Mexican alebrije tradition wraps around her shoulders and extends into oversized wings and a curling tail. Additional paper feather details continue down one leg and onto the shoes. I thought this was beautiful.
It was.
I thought that the fox with the way, because it wasn't the not stereotypical, that's the wrong word. It wasn't the usual just feathers extended out, kind of like the way Courtney Act had in season 6. The fact that the wings and the feathers were sort of wrapping around her, I thought was a really beautiful touch, and it was immaculately done.
Yeah, it was pretty. Great use of color. It told a story. We know what the story was. Even if we didn't know what the story was, we knew there was a story. We knew there was like depth. Yeah, I thought it was great. It was a fantastic look.
And the fact that she said that it's a love letter to her drag family. I totally forgot her last name is Fox, Denali Fox.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, oh yeah, that's an even cooler touch to how it goes. All right. So next up is Daya Betty. Daya wears a form-fitting paper sheath dress composed of hundreds of gold and bronze-toned paper scales. The silhouette features exaggerated shoulders and hips, a deep plunging neckline, and a ruffled back collar with additional paper ornamentation. Matching platform boots and extended claw-like nails complete the insect-inspired look. I was in the minority in the pool. Everybody in the pool hated this look, and I thought it was really cool looking. I thought it was very experimental. I thought it was very conceptual. That's the word I was looking for earlier.
Yeah.
But I think everybody at that point in the pool had turned on Daya because of right before with the whole thing with Alyssa. So she could have come out looking absolutely amazing, and I think that nobody would have liked it. But from a dress standpoint, I thought it was very cool looking.
I like the concept. I think it was clever. But there's just something about it that I didn't like. I don't know. I don't really like harsh things. So often, especially with that look and the one from last week, I'm not a big fan of very severe Grace Jones harsh looks on women.
But that's very her.
It is.
She is not. Daya Betty has never been about the soft lines. Everything with her is very severe and rigid. And so I thought that this made sense as far as a paper doll look goes.
Yeah, sure.
So next up we had Acid Betty. Acid appears in a pastel colored pannier, a skirt with a structured paper bodice featuring sharp geometric panels and puffed sleeves. The skirt is decorated with scalloped paper trim and stylized cameo motifs, while the back is engulfed in paper flames bearing the phrase, "Eat the Rich." The look is finished with pink thigh-high platform boots and a towering powdered wig styled like a chandelier. No notes. Amazing. I really liked this.
It was really good.
I really, really liked this. And part of the reason that I liked it is because it was Marie Antoinette.
Oh, you like Marie Antoinette stuff?
No, I think at this point, it's become such a joke that if one of the runway themes next year isn't Night of 1,000 Marie Antoinettes, they're idiots.
Yeah. I thought that it was really great. You know what? It really showed off more than the concept, which was really great because in the front you have sort of the Marie Antoinette opulence, but then in the back you have sort of the symbol of revolution and protest, which is actually very meaningful nowadays. They didn't know that then. Right. But is how good of a craftsman Acid Betty? I'm assuming Acid Betty made this outfit. I don't know why, but the construction is perfect. The wig is perfect. Everything's great. Yeah. No notes, even though I just gave notes.
Okay. Well, speaking of somebody who needs notes, Cynthia Lee Fontaine. Cynthia wears an asymmetrical green paper ensemble with a wrapped off-the-shoulder bodice and a cascade of circular paper rosettes and honeycomb fans. The paper elements are layered throughout the hips, legs, and back, creating a three-dimensional effect. The look is completed with green heels and a voluminous, curly auburn wig. This was such a mess. This was just absolutely horrible. It looks like something she put together in about 10 minutes. And I get the symbolism over wanting to do something in relation to celebrate her victory over liver cancer. But I think we have seen outfits like this before where the collar is the ribbon and all that kind of stuff done infinitely better than this was.
Yeah. Look, it's giving in a different kind of way Party City.
Yes, I was waiting for one of them to say, go back to Party City where you belong.
Yeah. It wasn't designed very well. Is it actually was it on the show or was it someone I was talking to or was it on Reddit where it looked like something that was done for like a quick design challenge? You know, here's some Party City things, using these party elements, it was not good. It looked cheap. Not a fan. Any other thoughts here on the looks, Taylor?
Nope, that's the looks.
Well, those are the looks. Well, Taylor, I think we've said everything we need to say without the public feed here. So on that note, bring back my girls. All right, later on the main stage, Ginger, Minj, and Daya Betty were named the top 2 All-Stars of the week, forcing them to face off in a lip-sync battle for the point. The song Mama Used to Say by Junior. In the end, Daya Betty was named the winner of the lip-sync and earned herself an extra point. Next, the bottom 4 queens came forward to give away their points and determine who would occupy the 3rd spot in the semifinals. After a dramatic turn of events, Cynthia Lee Fontaine squeaked by with 1 point ahead of Denali and earned herself the 3rd spot in the semifinals. Taylor the Latte Boy, any final thoughts on the episode?
I'm not surprised that Acid gave her the point. I think it's been known, obviously, that she loves Cynthia, but when Cynthia was going through her illness, I remember them talking about the fact that Acid Betty basically was one of her caregivers that took care of her and sort of nursed her back to life. So to give her this point, I think made a lot of sense. The other thing is, it's not even so much about the episode, but about coming next week when they showed them all, back in, which obviously there's an extended period of time between, I don't know when they filmed the semifinals.
Months. They filmed it at the same time as the Lollapalooza for the Lip Sync Smackdown for season 17. So like literally just a couple months ago.
Okay. So I immediately felt myself tense up when I saw Mistress on screen again, and looks like and the way that they edit it was that she's going after Ginger. And that to me is talking about fear response, that I think she knows that if Ginger's in there, that there's a really good chance she's not going to win again. And so she's doing the equivalent of going into prison and hitting the biggest guy in the cafeteria first, so that everybody knows not to mess with her. So, but either way, I'm not looking forward to her being back on screen.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Some good TV. I hope it's going to be some good TV. Here's a random thought, because we just talked about this, but look, public feed is back, so it's good. We didn't explain this, nor did we discuss. So Taylor and I made reference to this, but there are a lot of people, Taylor, believe it or not, there are a lot of people who aren't watching the show. They're relying on our recap. During the judges' critiques, Ginger was like first or second on the critique. Acid Betty's way down. Ginger did like literally she's doing Queen Elizabeth I. Not even just Elizabethan. She's literally portraying Queen Elizabeth I with the red hair and the white face and everything. And Michelle's like, I'm going to stop right here. And then turns to camera and is like, stop doing Marie Antoinette and the ilk. And it's like, you stupid bitch. This isn't even Marie Antoinette. And they're like 200, I'm guessing, like 200 years apart. Maybe more, maybe a little less, but more than 100 years apart, 100 centuries. Yeah. It would be like, stop doing the Miley look. And it's someone who's in like Revolutionary War outfit. It's like ridiculous. And it was so stupid.
So apparently now that she's the ambassador for all things drag, she's saying that you can't do looks beyond 1920. Like Susie Toot gets a pass, but anything that would be before then, you're not allowed to do because it's historical. It was just a dumb. I used to be a Michelle Visage fan. I always kind of liked her, and I liked the way she did things. And then she got really mean, and I didn't like her anymore. And then she definitely toned things down. But this is just, if you're sick of looking at this, then let somebody else be the co-host.
Well, look, but here's the deal. It's okay to be sick of looking at things, okay? And it's okay to, look, we've done this a million times. But there are a lot of times where when there's a very conventional glam version of it, she's okay with it, right? Even though we've seen it a million times, she has no problem with it. But also, fucking bitch, if you're going to be commenting on fashion, do some research in fashion. Notice that until today, I didn't comment on the looks. Why? Because I don't know shit about fashion. Even what I'm telling you right now, what I was doing today, it was me talking to ChatGPT and telling it what I thought of the look, and then it informing back to me how to say that in a sort of more fashion knowledge way. Like, do a modicum of research. You know, fashion history. Talk to somebody. They don't film this live to tape. Talk to somebody. Say, like, ask a question. Use Google. Thank you. Ask Ginger first. What were you trying to do here?
Yeah. She's never going to do that, though, because then she's going to look like she doesn't know what she's talking about. But I also noticed there have been times that she's said things that have been clearly wrong and has been called on them in the past. So I almost wonder if this was part of that, if they did this so that people like us or people on Reddit and stuff would say, you dumb bitch, that wasn't Marie Antoinette. That was from 200-300 years before.
She's a stupid bitch. She should have just saved it for after Acid Betty. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Drag Race Recap. Be sure to join us next week and every week as we continue to discuss, dissect, and deconstruct each brand new episode of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 10. So for Taylor the Latte Boy and myself,
sashay away until next week.
Thank you for listening to Drag Race Recap. Have something to say? Leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/afterthoughtmedia. You can also email us at dragracerecap@afterthought.media. For more Drag Race and LGBTQ+ content, support us over at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia. Special thanks to these expensive tier Patreon supporters: April Pacheco, Astute Girl, Brad Coley, Coco San Pedro, Derek Byers, Doofus Maximus, E. Smith, Efren Barbosa, Phil Skit Pony, Flying Suki, Humble Pie, J. Thomas Plink, Kathy Zender, Katie Whitmire, Lauren Eckert, Lucy Carrasco, Mary S., Mike Yeager, Nikki Baker, Nikki Pettit, Polly Ann Marie, Poppy Woods, Ricardo Herrera, Runner Brandon, Sarah Yu, Tom Bobbs, Travi Cosmos, and Troy Anderson. Drag Race Recap is an Afterthought Media podcast.
Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.